I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Meg Gatto. A government watchdog agency says Mayor Cantrells' executive protection team lacks any written policy for operations, and the officers who protect her don't have a proper chain of command.
A new report says that could be leading to inefficient use of valuable resources for the NOPD. Here's our new Outside the Office investigation.
The safety of the mayor is paramount to all city operations.
But New Orleans Inspector General Ed Michel says the $415,000 annually spent on the mayor's executive protection, money that goes to salaries and overtime, needs better oversight. In a letter sent to the interim NOPD superintendent, Michel wrote the city has no policies in place to regulate and guide the executive protection team's operations.
This is a very large sum of money for the city to expend, with very few policies in place to ensure efficient operations. The lack of policies and procedures contributed to the ineffective use of NOPD's already limited resources.
Our stories earlier this year focused on the executive protection team. We reviewed more than 1,000 hours of video from a public security camera outside the city-owned French Quarter apartment, and inspected hundreds of pages of police payroll records and the mayor's schedule. What we found, the city paying NOPD officers to protect the mayor, but those officers spending many of those hours nowhere close to her, like Wednesday, September 7th of last year. That morning, 4 law enforcement officers went on the clock. According to the NOPD, their sole job to protect the mayor. NOPD officer Robert Monlin started his workday at 6:25 a.m., Orleans Sheriff Deputy Charles Ellis at 7 a.m., NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy at 8, then another NOPD officer, Luis Martinez, at 9. 4 officers being paid by taxpayers to protect the mayor, while we spotted her walking alone in workout clothes, watering plants, and leaving the city-owned apartment by herself just after 11 a.m. For that day, the city decided to pay officers to protect the mayor for 48 total hours of work. We also found officers still being paid while the mayor traveled out of town. Like Monday, August 22nd, Mayor Cantrells spent the entire day in Washington, D.C. for one meeting with the Department of Justice. Back in New Orleans, the city still paid 2 additional officers to protect the mayor while she was in D.C. Robert Monlin clocked in at 8 a.m. and worked until 8 at night. Deputy Charles Ellis from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. Remember, the NOPD says their only duty is to protect the mayor, yet both billed taxpayers for a total of 24 hours of work, while the person they're paid to protect was out of town. The city would never tell us what the officers did while the mayor was out of town, but in leaked audio recordings of an internal investigation into Officer Jeffrey Vappy, a now former member of her executive protection team, another officer described what he does while the mayor is out of town.
Same hours?
Same hours. Usually have to, so still stick to 8 to 8, but baby girl had to go to school. I think she go to school at 7:15. I think she has to be there. So pick her up, drop her off, pick up at the end of the day, take her to get something to eat, and take her to the house. If she just hope she don't have practice, nail appointment, or hair appointment.
In fact, a former member of the executive protection team said she frequently did personal errands for the mayor.
Well, I'll say this, it's a fine line between being executive protection and being an assistant. So there were some things you'd think like, this ain't my job. But, you know, it's like, what?
Right. Give me an example of some of the stuff that you recall like that.
I think the main thing for the team, especially the guys, was holding that purse. Like, we need our hands, you know, like we're not supposed to be holding your bag, but you know, you might need an assistant for that. What else? Oh, question?
No, go ahead.
Running errands sometimes, you know, if she would forget something or need something, you know. So whatever you think an assistant might do, sometimes, more times than not, we would be doing that as well.
On Tuesday, the mayor said using protection for personal errands will not change.
Do you still believe that your executive detail should be running errands and doing stuff like that?
Absolutely.
I need my executive protection detail. It's very important to my ability to do my job. And so I see, especially in this capacity, as mayor of the city, especially even as a woman doing this job, and with the family. So yes, I will continue to utilize my executive protection detail just as every other mayor prior to me, and it's never gone under any scrutiny at all, and it's very concerning that this is the issue.
But the Inspector General says the NOPD must adopt a policy that stops using police for the mayor's personal business.
That is not allowed. The executive protection team should not be conducting personal errands on behalf of the mayor.
The Inspector General's letter highlighted several more key findings. Michel wrote the executive protection team never prepared any threat assessments prior to events and speaking engagements. The city doesn't have anyone responsible for coordinating the day-to-day operations of the executive protection team. And the executive protection team allowed the mayor to enter the Upper Pentaba apartment without an escort, even mentioning a time the mayor spoke to a man sleeping in front of the entrance, that person approaching the mayor with a bottle in their possession while the mayor's executive protection team was more than a block away. The security camera video obtained by Fox 8 showed a similar situation, with the mayor leaving the apartment alone close to 11 p.m. and stopping to talk to a person who appears to be setting up to sleep in a doorway of a nearby restaurant. The NOPD told the Inspector General it plans to adopt policies and better oversight to the executive protection team. 4 officers responsible for protecting the mayor when she's outside the office. When it comes to chain of command, the leak audio recordings showed officers got their assignments from the mayor herself. Michel says that it is not a typical relationship between protectors and their protectee. He says moving forward, operational decisions should be made by an NOPD team leader, not